episode 18 of season 3 of Relics of Ore. I am your host, Shongaku, and this is a show about Guild Wars 2, and the Guild Wars community. I am joined this evening by Kate, who is our editor-in-chief at Relics of Ore, and also Lord of Frozen Cheese, apparently. How are you doing this evening, Kate?
I'm doing good.
How's the cheese?
It's cheesy.
It's good. She's in Wisconsin, for all of you
There's
folks.
cheese and beer and cold. That's what we're made of up here.
We also have our common host, Evee, who's waving tonight. How are you doing, Evee?
Apparently, I'm in a waving mood.
That's fantastic.
You have to wave. You have to wave at the people. Wave at the
Look,
internet, Evie.
I'm not gonna lie. I usually don't do it because there's a lag on the live stream, and I don't know when I actually have to start waving.
Dude, I just waved the whole time, just as much as possible. Just assume that you're on camera and just.
For an hour, just.
I waved through the whole exit. As soon as
you're
you
pretty
said,
much
you can
like
contact us at Relics of Ore. I'm like,
it's
bye
like
everyone.
Just imagine you're a princess on a float, and you just have to keep waving.
Is that how it's done?
I have no idea,
Yeah,
actually.
you have to kind of,
I
like,
don't
cup
have
your
much
hand
practice playing a princess, oddly
and
enough.
do the thing.
I know the
Yes.
internet is surprised by this. Alright, but we're not here to talk about being a princess. We're here to talk about Guild Wars 2, which has a princess in it in the Super Adventure Box. So, how far have you guys gotten with the Super Adventure Box and your attempts to save Princess Mia? Kate?
Okay, I have completed World 2 on normal mode. World 2's zones 1 and 2. I haven't gotten around to doing 3 yet because I just haven't bothered to amass the 400 baubles to get past like the thing right at the beginning. I went back to World 1 to do Tribulation mode, made it through 1, and disconnected right before the end of 2. So I missed my chance to finish it, so now I have to go back. But I'm kind of reluctant because, you know, if you ever lost a save for a game and you have to go back and redo the progress, it's like, that's an approximation of my feelings.
So, so have you gone back after the nerf at all? Or the fix? The patch that fixed stuff?
No, I haven't gone back after they patched it. I had done it before the nerf. I didn't encounter any of the problems. If you check our Twitter, and I'll actually link it in the show notes in a minute, Grievok tweeted us a video of the glitches that were going on. I didn't encounter anything like this. I mean, I had a little bit of problems with like, maybe the edges on the platforms, but this one guy is just getting knocked around. He'll be standing, like, still on a crocodile and just all of a sudden start drifting down the river.
A lot of it is tied to lag.
Yeah, there were some funky lag issues.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing as well. So, Evie, how far have you gotten?
I did World 2 1 and 2 2, and then I did Tribulation mode 1 1 and 1 2, and I haven't really gotten it back in since. I was planning on farming bubble bobbles on all of my tunes, doing speed runs every day so I could get 4 weapons, but apparently you can't do that now, so...
They actually did recently buff World 2. Apparently, there's a ton of baubles in it now.
Yeah,
Not
every
bubbles,
assassin.
bubbles.
Yeah, but it's definitely a lot more rewarding than it was before because every assassin drops 5 bubbles. Bubbles when they're all together. It's a bubble with baubles. They drop 5 bubbles each, and it's a lot more profitable than it was previously, especially if you were getting hit by the owls.
It still takes 250 bubbles to get a bauble, though, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. We speak in bees on this show. So, it'll be interesting to... So, have you guys been able to get any of the skins, then?
Nope.
I haven't yet. I will be getting one of the green ones as soon as I have some time to finish the rest of Tribulation mode. I got close enough. I know I can do it. I have to get around to actually doing it. And I'm not really after any of the blue ones this time around. They weren't that interesting to me. I am going to pick up a mini Princess Mia, though. think that's what I'll do with my bubbles.
I might pick up a green greatsword for when Shungaku finally gets access to greatswords. Necro greatswords will be amazing! If they ever occur. Well, also, so you guys have spent a little bit of time in there. Have you guys found that this seems like a very relaxed release compared to the other ones where it's just go, 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 go. Have you felt compelled to farm Super Adventure Box like you did, or just spend a ton of time in this month's content compared to, say, last month where everyone was just Queen's Jubilee, Clockwork Chaos, go, go, go?
Actually, not at all. And it's actually been nice because I can kind of take a step back. And a lot of people were talking, or I think it was Richie Procopio who mentioned, like, it's kind of a nice back to school thing. Like, a lot of people are going back to school, and it's a nice break from the kind of insane stuff we had towards the end of the summer. I personally am back at university, and so it's nice to feel less pressured in here so I can deal with other stuff.
Like the whole education thing?
Oh yeah, that might be important.
Evie?
I mean, for me, it's been all about trying to figure out how to get an ascended weapon. But as far as SAP goes, I think a large part of it, that feeling of not having to actually do it and rush through it, is because there's a very clear disconnect between what is regular Guild Wars 2 and the Super Adventure Box. And that's why people don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually kind of nice. I mean, aside from obviously getting your achievement points to get your back piece and stuff, I still haven't even gotten the World 1-1 meta. Mainly because I'm lazy, and I'll probably get it sometime this week. We'll see. Wow. I'm really busy this month. So I don't know if I'll actually get my Super Adventure Box meta, just like last year. Or in April, when things happened. But I have enjoyed it. I did Tribulation Mode 1-1 the night after last episode, so last Tuesday. Stayed up way too late. It was a ton of fun. Not sure. Yeah, there is that disconnect, and so I'm not necessarily driven to complete it. But it could change with the next patch, where they are essentially revamping Tequatl actually this month as well. And we talked with Grybach a lot about that last week. So is there anything else that we can add to it? I know that LFG is coming. Have we seen any more on what the LFG tool looks like? Evie? No? Kate,
there's
you?
not really.
Not really anything beyond what we saw on the stream when they revealed it, which was at PAX. It's just kind of, they fleshed out the look, it's in the same place it is now with the little blue magnifying glass in your friends list, and it showed parties, it showed the party comp, it showed which professions were in it and what they were looking for, I believe.
It looked an awful lot like the drop-in, drop-out PvP interface, actually.
Yeah, it did.
I would not be surprised if they took assets from that and sort of shifted it over into that functionality, so you can just drop in, drop out of a group. Have they said anything more about whether or not you can merge groups outside of the group finder?
I don't think we have confirmation on that quite yet. But there's still another week to go before it gets here, so I'm sure we'll have confirmation.
So they also have added the Bloodlust in the Borderlands head, and they've fleshed out. Have they fully revealed the map yet? I believe they did last weekend during a developer live stream. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I missed it.
Anyone in chat know if they've fleshed out the WW map yet and actually showing us everything so we can talk about it? If not, they have talked a little bit. They have talked a little bit about the actual fact that it's a three capture point of 5. You have to control 3 of 5 points to get the Bloodlust, which gives you a plus 50. And do you think, I know we talked about this a little bit 2 weeks ago, do you think that's going to be enough to break up Zergs?
Hold on, can we talk about Bloodlust a bit more, because I'm a little bit confused about, it gives plus 50 what?
It gives plus 50 to all your attributes.
Oh,
It's a flat
that's
$50
nice.
attributes, plus 50. So that, I mean, that's a fairly significant boost
Yeah.
to everything. I mean, that's what, 500 health, a ton of damage reduction with through toughness, good damage, condition damage. Ooh, I can do so much condition damage. Anyways, do you guys think that that is going to be? I mean, that's clearly going to give you a significant tactical advantage. The question is, will it be enough of a tactical advantage to make up the loss of for the loss of your Zerg?
I'm not sure.
Will
I guess
people
it's
really
gonna.
lose their Zergs for this though? Because it just seems to me like this is gonna be like, oh, we'll take this one like hugely massive mob and split it just enough as is necessary to get 3 points and keep a relatively sizable horde that is now buffed and just run through a map.
So
Yeah.
one of the interesting things is there's decay on the points. If you don't have someone on the point, it decays, and you lose the buff. So
To me,
you
that sounds like they're gonna have small groups, maybe 2 or 3 people watching it, not.
and calling the
And if
Zerg
you
back.
have, yeah, so if you need three, maybe 6 to 12 people to manage those points for the whole map until they can call in the Zerg to wipe out whoever's coming at them.
So they did reveal the whole map on that on the developer live stream. Have you guys seen it?
Mm-mm.
It is a interesting. There's a lot more stuff obviously going around the lake, and there's some crazy, just some tower. There's new towers. There's new ruins. There's a whole bunch of new stuff with new sort of tactical locations where you're gonna have to build siege equipment and stuff and protect. One of the points is almost it's at the top of a tower that you have to run up around the outside of, and when you get to it, it's a fairly exposed point. So it could have for some very interesting fights. Or do you think people are going to pick like these are the three easiest to defend? We're going to grab these and camp them.
I
These are
think,
the three easiest to defend. We're gonna grab them and camp them,
yeah, I think that's
obviously.
gonna be the big one. But if you can, so say if you can hold the other two that are more complicated to get and scare them enough to maybe pull them off another point, I think they will play a role in changing the hands of the Bloodlust. But the one on the tower, man, that it sounds to me like the top of the world versus world jumping puzzle where people sit up there and like I have such a problem
The
with
people that
engineers.
are gonna hold that point are basically just like five Hammer Guardians. They're just gonna
And a
stick them up
ranger,
there.
I
What?
think
Oh, oh,
I think
yeah.
you could do it with an
longbow
engineer and a
ranger.
guardian, or just either one of them. A
You
guardian
want a longbow
probably
ranger though because of all the
stability and heal through
control.
it.
Yeah,
Except
yeah.
Rangers, overworld. Mm.
Rangers, in that sort of situation, a longbow ranger would be excellent for the slow effect that they would be able to do on people. The AOE, longbow barrage.
Except there's this confined area where they can work in. So
Yes, well, that's the point. Is everyone coming up to them is confined as well, and they have knockbacks and a stealth. Could be useful. We'll see. I'm gonna keep chanting for Rangers to make a comeback in Dub v Dub. Interesting. Lysbarn also updated us and said that if you get 5 of the points, if you capture all 5 and hold them, you get plus 100 to your stats.
That's a lot.
That is huge. Now this brings me to another point though, and we're going to move on to in Dub v Dubstep with Devin Carter for this section, where he's talking about where several people on the forums have specifically said that they want to have Bloodlust be toggleable, as in turning off Bloodlust. His response was no, that is not a possibility at this time. The point of the buff is to affect the WV game mode as a whole. Disabling it on your character would lessen the value of the buff to a server and completely invalidate the whole point. I read the responses on this article. I still don't understand. Why would you want to disable the buff, Kate?
Does it have to do? My first thought would be the guild versus guild stuff.
That
If your server's winning, then you've got a huge point advantage and a guild versus GVG match.
It was actually people who were saying, the weird thing is, one person actually came on and said, I don't guild versus guild, but I want a challenge in dub v dub.
So, are we talking roamers that
I guess.
go running one versus one each other, and
Which
they're
is
like,
which is completely not helping the actual dub v dub. I don't understand
yes.
it. I mean, if you're gonna roam and do that, Evee, does that make any sense to you?
Nope.
I mean, there were a ton of people that were going, "Oh, this is the worst thing ever," and they're like, "We're not even guild versus guild." I don't.
For the GVG people, I can see them like having a legitimate complaint as far as like what they want to accomplish, but that just further proves that there needs to be a GVG in the game.
Yeah,
Mhm.
As far as like rumors and whatnot, I'm just like, that is beyond selfish. Like I don't even.
it's just weird. So
If you want to show off your EPing, go into SPVP. That's what that's for.
Yeah.
and if you can't hack in an SPVP, well, you should just keep playing SPVP until you can figure out how to play it. Uh, Speaking of SPVP, Evan Lesh actually had some commentary. We're doing a quick show because, well, we're seeing if we can do a quick show. We're testing. He talked about PvP a little bit on the forums. He said the updates exclusive to PvE and PvP are hard to compare. People were basically trying to compare PvE and PvP, and this ties back a little bit to our post show last week, so we'll talk about that. The updates exclusive to PvE and PvP are hard to compare. Almost all PvP features require very intensive programmer and server support, all like solo queue, matchmaking, custom arenas, spectator mode, etc. Living Story updates leverage existing technology to advance the story and expand content with new mobs, crafting recipes, dungeons, etc. PvP has a few areas expandable by content, the main features being maps, which we release regularly. Balance updates affect all parts of the game and don't come out for one any faster than the other. So it's definitely arguable that there are fewer PvP centric updates than there are PvE. Would you agree with that, Evie?
Well, factually, yeah, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Why is that?
Because when PvP changes too much too quickly, you get things like the Necromancer debacle we're currently facing. And that's a balance thing. If they were to introduce, like, say, solo queue with a new game type and new rewards and glory to gold conversion all at the same time, it would overwhelm just the. Yeah, no.
So how would you? So you think that the current pace of PvP is pretty good?
I wouldn't say it's good, but it's not necessarily bad either.
It does seem like they have more coders working on PvP than they do on PvE.
Well, that's just because the set of tools for PvE are very expansive in order to create new content for PvE. What they use to create events, at least from what I've heard, is very, very like, how do I word this? Straightforward, maybe?
Good work, Widechar. You have done your job well.
Basically. But like, I mean, like he was mentioning in that post, or Evan Lesh, I mean, for there to be in like a new feature in PvP, they have to completely code it, and that's not something you can do on a dime.
Yeah. So, do you think that? I'm not sure how much further we can go with this. Any thoughts on SPVP and coding, Evie? I know that we talked a lot about last week how it is much more difficult to add something that changes the base engine, which is essentially what any serious SPVP updates, like new game modes, are going to be a new coded system because you're going to have to have a new scoring system. You're going to have to put in a new. I mean, if you look at Dragon Bash and the Dragon Arena, that was, I think, about as far as they can push their PvP engine. Would you agree with that, Evie?
Mm, I'd say going back to Halloween.
Oh, with the Dota style,
Mm-hmm.
Reaper's Rumble or whatever it was.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name of it either.
Yeah, it was Reaper's Rumble.
Okay.
Yeah, brain. Super functional sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with SPVP. See what they've and as they slowly but surely reveal things, it'll be hopefully we will see some significant movement in that regard. Moving on to some other things with coding issues as well. A lot of the stuff that I think game players want at this point are going to boil down to whether or not ArenaNet has time to code it. Just because a lot of the things, for example, Koenig had a very interesting Koenig Dystotis, who is sort of the lore master of Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2. If you ever want to get good lore, just go and look him up on Guild Wars 2 Guru, and you will find that 90% of the theories that are floated or modified out there are start with him and then change over time. But I'd say most Guild Wars 2 lore and speculation, like when I put this on, 90% of the time something Koenig said has started it. Or it's a mechanic thing and I'm going crazy. So he's brilliant. You need to check him out. He had an interesting conversation on the forums with Bobby Stein, who I think I spelled his name wrong in our show notes, but that's okay.
No, that's right.
Oh, yes, I can spell names. So he discussed, and basically one of the discussions that they had was about about how the living story was framed, and a very interesting point that Koenig brought up was a lot of subtle stuff can get missed. Like, they can't have subtle hinting because you have such a limited time to experience the content.
Mm-hmm.
If they put in subtle hints of like here and there without it being within the core where everyone sees it and like almost having to bring attention to it, it's going to be missed by most people. And while that is kind of cool from a living world standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, from like anyone who likes reading books and that sort of thing, and like going back and reading a book a second time and being like, oh, they put that in there because this is how it works. And you can respect the brilliance of the author in that regard. Whereas you can't necessarily do that with the way the living story is, because you can't go back and be like, I see what you did there, unless you like watch live streams of it. And so you can't experience it again. And Koenig and him were discussing various ways of trying to fix that. Evie, what sorts of systems would you want to see? Obviously, at this point, as Bobby Stein brought up, it's a coding issue. So if they could code it, what would you like to see for the living story for refreshing and being able to add more subtle elements?
I've actually said this once and I'll say it again. Bring back the exact same system that was for the bonus mission pack. You play as the NPC, you do the story content, and it's just like this book in your inventory, and possibly even once you do it, you can turn it in for some kind of reward.
Kate, what would you like to see?
There's two things I want to see with the living story, kind of like what Evie says, but I would rather see the story centered on the player character, as though you were there. Because I think it would be kind of an unnecessary change to make it to the NPC character, just because it's additional development time that you can't really afford to waste. I would like to see it in the UI as opposed to the inventory, because I think if you mix the... Look at the way the journal is right now in-game. We almost never look at this journal, but it has real potential where it keeps track of, you know, what's happened. It shows you significant items. It has art. It could keep track of dialogue things that you've found that are relevant. Maybe even if you weren't aware of them, if you're in the vicinity, it jots it down. So even if you're not paying attention specifically at the time, you can go back and look at it. The books could be in the UI, where it's like it tells you this mission, and you click on the book to start the mission, and then it records it once you've finished it, and you've learned all this stuff. You have it from then on to either play or to read through as necessary. The second thing I want to see, I've talked about this in the past. I'm not sure if it was on the show or with you guys just mumble. Not a UI thing, just pure human resources. I want a fifth living story team. Their job would be not to create living story content necessarily. Well, it would be creating content, but I want them to go through and make sure that there's conversations out in the world and to change it. So like after the Super Adventure Box goes away, I want there to be NPCs talking about what happened there so they can bring back major themes that happened, or like, oh, this happened. Now the NPCs are talking about how they're reacting to it. I want them to change art assets.
Like in Skyrim, when something happens, people talk about it.
Yeah, I want that to be a thing, because you don't lose as much of, maybe the content's gone, but there's more of a continuous continuity through the world instead of just, it was here, it's gone, it was here, it's gone, and that's it.
Yeah. Speaking of continuity, have you guys checked out the Lion Fountain, Aslan?
Is it different now?
He's back. Aslan's back.
He just appeared randomly.
Ellen Keel is still standing in the same place that she was.
Is she inside the fountain now?
She's like in the water, like with the boats going past her, the little metal boats. It was hilarious. It was like you couldn't get her an office. You couldn't put her. You couldn't
she
move
like playing
her.
sailboats in the water.
No, she's just like standing there doing her thing, like wringing her hands and all the other and the stuff that NPCs do when they stand there. I ran past and I was like, and then I jumped up on top.
A month?
Well, I don't know.
They literally brought it back so they could blow it up.
Except for the fact that they
can't imagine the Mad King being sealed in there is not going to escape from the same place.
Except for the fact that they suggested that the stories are going to change every year. And that the Mad King event was a one-time thing when he bursted out of the fountain. So I don't think he's going to come out again.
Well, then how do we get to see him?
I think that an Azura's going to be like, well, he could bust out of that. Or, look, I built an Azura gate that travels through the mist, that travels to his realms, because that's what Azura gates do.
It's always the Azura.
Well, they have the teleportation tech. I suppose a Char could have figured out how to build Azura gates by now.
I'm annoyed about Azura making everything possible, and their technology is the source of a lot of plot points. Like, oh, we can suddenly go here now. Yay, the Azura. Or, oh, something blew up. Damn it, the Azura.
I'm somewhat worried.
Go to Cantha. Yay, Azura.
No, that's totally gonna be... If it's an Azuran ship, I will be sad. It should be like a human ship. Straight up.
Screw that. I want a Solari boat.
Just because.
Oh, a Char's boat? That would be amazing. Think of the
pod with the cattail oars.
Just think of like the boats from the Fire Nation in
Yes. I was thinking of Last Samurai style, telling the Canthan story Last Samurai style, where you have like these, not necessarily the movie Last Samurai, but the whole concept of the West came in with these iron ships and new weapons and cannons and stuff and Gatling guns and started giving them to the Japanese, and then these guys with swords were like, we're gonna fight, but we're probably gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
And do a similar interesting... I mean, you could have some very interesting geopolitical, sociological studies with Cantha if we actually sailed to Cantha. Hunter had the awesome idea of, instead of swimming to Cantha, creating a large open ocean zone, just like massive, and letting ships sail and having like people be able to PvP with like ships, like become pirates and various things like that.
That would be cool. I would like to
And you could build your own ship.
That would be a little bit too much, but I would like
amazing.
That could, it
cool.
does have some
I wouldn't lie, but
I'm gonna bring some sand with me next time, and every time I say something awesome, I'm just gonna throw sand at the camera.
Are you gonna pull it out of your
sounds like
pocket?
an amazing idea for a World v World.
Oh my goodness.
But
that would be amazing.
there would be some cool implications for meta events where entire parts of the zone, or like there could be a fleet of ships come through with a meta event and then it sails off the other side of the zone and docks in Cantha, and it's not there the next time you go through, and there's different ship groups of ships, or or maybe a rare ghost ship at night that floats through, stuff like that. There could be
Yeah.
some really cool implications. And I just read somewhere, I think it was on Twitter, um they were talking about now having the tech to make moving platforms out in the open world, which would apply to ships, I believe, and airships and all various modes of travel, and the implications that having that tech could have on the types of events you're able to design
Wait, does
and
this mean that they
implement.
could have like Doliac pulling a cart and I could just jump on the cart and chill?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Imagine having like that as like a service around a zone. And like occasionally you have to jump off and protect it. It spawns events, but if you just want to get through a zone really quick, you run up to them, pay them some gold, and then they like tour you around the zone.
It
I'll
seems kind of a cop out for
I like it.
exploration.
I gusta. Well, like, like on an alt, after you have 100% world travel, it's not as much of an issue. I mean, for newbies, it's kind of a
Or
nice
they could
thing.
make waypoints be account bound, and it would accomplish the same thing.
Evie, we're talking about ambiance and living in a world with stuff happening.
you
That's
still
why
have
it's
to
there.
you still have to go out and sit on the Doliac. It doesn't take away from exploration.
Yeah, and you
Find the
can look.
Doliac and sit on it.
Think about it. You could just look around. You don't have to worry about navigating or anything like that or checking your map. You just hop on the cart, grab a seat, and then look.
Yeah, and of course it would probably be attacked by, I don't know, anything, because Doliacs are like the bottom of the food chain around here
It's
for
really
some
true.
reason.
Which makes no sense because they're
I
like
think I saw a
unicorns.
Doliac. I saw a Doliac the other day get attacked by a pack of rabid rabbits.
It's true.
It lost. What were you gonna say, Evie?
Hmm.
No, nothing. That's right. Sandbox. It's better. So, moving on to other sandboxy things, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat really quick. Even though this is not as tinfoily hat, because Colin Johansson has actually said he wants this. So, Zenith weapons. You can access them whenever you want. Just throw them onto your thing. Colin Johansson had an interesting interview with Matt Visual. You guys should all check it out on his YouTube channel, Matt_Visual. It's a fantastic interview, and one of the things that Colin Johansson said is that what they would like is maybe having a system where you can unlock armor skins, either account or character per character, and then instead of having to go and like transmute it every single time, you can just basically apply it to.
Okay, and here's my plea to ArenaNet as someone that plays SPVP on a semi-regular basis, which is completely. I'm sorry to kind of detract from the conversation for a second. When this system is in place, please, I'm begging you, make it so that people that play PvP can get skins and use them in PvE, and people that play PvE can make skins from their PvE gear for PvP. We need a bigger SPVP player base. Please.
So if they did that though, what would they do to? How would they incentivize SPVP? I mean, what sort of things would you give people then? Because right now skins are it. SPVP skins are pretty much that's what you do SPVP for the rewards. If you're in for the rewards, give them gold, give them loot bags or something.
They've already talked about a glory to gold conversion.
Really? Where's your tinfoil hat? Really, a glory to gold conversion. That's an interesting
Yes.
idea.
On top of that, they could add a in-game, very important, in-game visible ranking system for tournaments that people can see how their ranking goes.
Oh, like the fringe
They could
on
add
your
a-
cape in Guild Wars 1.
hmm They could add a visible MMR, sort of like arena rating in WoW. I actually had a list of things.
Put the
There's
icon of your rank next to your character name. Like when you've completed world completion, you get the gold, the star.
Mm-hmm. And
Put
on
like
the
a
other side,
rabbit.
if you do like, if you have a really nice SPVP rank or TPVP rank, excuse me, it has like the rank of your like different symbols for different TVP PvP ranks.
um, also there's the finisher system, which could have more become more robust than just the rank. I mean, there's already the ranks ones, but you could increase them to account for, the achievements like the champion shadow achievement. I would totally get that. I don't even play tournament PvP, but I would get that title to have a finisher that had a thief just like pop out of the shadows and murder someone. Internet, please.
There's already profession-specific achievements
Hmm.
in the PvP section or whatever the achievements. They could make a ton of things
If
tied
they
to
gave
those.
me the ability to finish Clockwork Guys by summoning Doom, like the classic Doom ban hammer in Guild Wars 1, I would play so much SPVP just to unlock that on my Necro. Because that would be
When
amazing.
they first announced finishers, I really thought they were going to be profession specific.
I was hoping.
Give them
Maybe they
time.
will be.
We do know that Widechar watches, and lots of other people watch Guild Wars Relics of War, and by that I mean 16. So maybe ArenaNet, we can get profession specific ones
Hmm.
from SPVP that you can use in PvE on those silly Clockwork Chaos guys. I would play SPVP just for that. I'd play it poorly, but at least you'd have players. Although you have 17,000 right now, which is not a terrible number.
Mm.
It's compared to the 3 million or 2.5 million that log in every week. Okay, yes.
Compared to any serious PvP game, that's really, really, really low.
It's true. I think WoW has more monthly, weekly or PvPers in
And they
arenas.
have what could arguably be called the worst MMO PvP system ever because arenas are the worst PvP game type ever concocted for an MMO. I'm done.
Five
Yes, I will
Spartan has
finish it.
also told us that we should pimp the State of the Game podcast because that is an awesome one. It actually gets John Peters and Jonathan Sharp and John Peters.
That's why I heard the Glory to Gold conversion from.
You guys should watch that. It actually used to be hosted by Grouch, who now works at ArenaNet. You will see him posting all the time on the Dev Tracker. He talks a lot about uh, SPVP and actually a whole lot of things. He's quite vocal. He's pretty much like there doing lots of things. Now Steppenwolf, I believe, is the host, who is another PvP. State of the Game is mostly SPVP centric, but I think it's an important podcast to have, especially since I think they are the only serious SPVP podcast out there. Because we talk about it, but we don't know what we're talking about. Evee does sometimes.
Sometimes. I'm not an
Sometimes.
expert.
So definitely check them out. State of the Game. It's on Guild Wars 2 Guru hosts it. And also check out their other awesome podcast, which is Sitting on a Couch Gaming, which has Get Cooped, who was part of our interview series that we did. There's a lot of great podcasts out there. You should
There's
watch
also the
ours.
Maker. Don't forget the Maker.
The Maker. Oh,
Mhm.
are they still doing it?
He came back a while back and started doing a podcast, I think, once a week.
Oh,
And he gives
fantastic.
away 100 gems every podcast. So
Oh, cool.
Man, we should do that.
I don't have that kind of money.
You don't. I might. I don't know.
$10 a week.
100
Well,
gems?
technically like 30 a week.
If he's giving 100 gems away.
No, he's giving 800 gems
Oh,
away.
that is $10 a week.
Several packs of 800.
Hardcore. I don't have that kind of money.
I'm pretty sure ArenaNet does it for him. So
Oh, ArenaNet. Wink. Wink. All right, yeah, there's a lot of good ones. Also, Tyria After Dark came back just recently, and they did one with they did a episode with Naveen and a few other people. So definitely check them out. Other than that, it's almost like we moved on to the community section, but before we move on to the official community section, we're the community podcast. It's what we do. We talk about other people and talk about how awesome their podcasts are. Check out Chronicles of Tyria. Bar Brawl, though, we need to talk about content difficulty, because with the new Ascended gear coming out and Evee's hatred of crafting, his passionate, his passionate hatred of crafting. Look at there. Oh man, he's destroying a bloodstone brick live on stream. That's how much he hates it. And that thing he can only make once a day.
You can make bloodstone bricks as much as you want.
Oh, I take forever to actually harvest all those bloodstone
Now
dust.
I have to make this back into a square, though, because I actually like the way it looks on my desk.
Oh. So, content difficulty. It doesn't necessarily always relate to rewards. And there are currently 3 modes in Super Adventure Box. With Infantile, do you actually get bubbles from Infantile mode?
Not bubbles, but you can get bubbles, and it's nowhere near as what are the words that when you get money?
Profitable.
Yeah, that's the one. It's nowhere near as profitable as running normal or tribulation, which is okay with me, because if people want to see the content, they can get through the content. But if you do it efficiently, then you're gonna get it more.
I have to argue, though, if they're really seeing the content in Infantile mode, because it's just like writing a rainbow over everything.
In World 1 it is. In World 2, I know you're definitely gonna experience a lot more trouble.
You have to go into the dojos for like the water part with the jumping and the waterfalls and whatnot. You just go straight over that.
But it's less about... I would argue that seeing the content is more about, like, literally just being able to see it. Like, just to go in there and see things like the genie. Have any of you seen the genie?
I have not actually spent any time in World 2.
Game Genie, yeah. They're building a story around Super Adventure Box. It's not just contained to Super Adventure Box. The genie alludes to things going on outside the game. There's a little mini quest line. If you get to the genie, there's dialogues going on out in Radasum about Moto's old crew, the foundations of the Super Adventure Box. I highly recommend reading Shadow Box by John J. Ryan. It's on the Guild Wars 2 thing. Definitely has implications for future living story with the Super Adventure Box. It's going to come back, and I think outside of the Super Adventure Box, we're going to see some elaboration on the story, both within and without. And so it's important to understand that story for players to be able to get through and see things like the Game Genie, which you can do on Infantile mode.
Mm-hmm.
So,
considering that, then yeah.
Do you feel that the dungeons would be better served having 3 modes like this? Velcro shoe mode, normal mode, and hard mode.
It's not even Velcro shoe mode. It's
literally infantile mode.
No, it's let your parents put the shoes on you mode.
So it is infantile mode because you're an infant.
Yeah.
So do you think that there would be a benefit to adding that sort of mode to, say, dungeons?
For like living story dungeons, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
One of my biggest complaints with the Aetherblade dungeon was the high level of difficulty for it, for something that's so deeply tied to the story.
It was perfect for us, but we run dungeons all the time.
Well,
like that's something we do in Relics.
Yeah, for like people who like that sort of content, it was brilliant.
Our record run for a raw with Triv is like what, an hour path 4?
I think so, yeah.
Wow, I need to do some Aura runs with you guys. That's pretty quick. What'd you do to Giganticus?
Rocked him in the face.
2 minutes? Not even?
Feedback.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you guys do the stacking technique?
No, we run around.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll have to check that out. Oh, I'll have to check that out because I'm actually terrible at games. It turns out. So do you feel then that the game as a whole is going to be moving towards more tougher content, though, with the Ascended gear that's coming out? Tequatl is a much more difficult fight. Do you think that they're going to start balancing fights around Ascended gear? Evee?
I certainly hope not. But if they really want to make something difficult, they have to take that into account because there are going to be people that have that Ascendant gear, and while it's not a huge stat boost when you look at each piece individually, like say what accessory or whatever, you have to take into account that it's kind of accumulative with armor, accessories, and whatnot, and weapons. Sure, the stats may not be, all that much more, but there's the base weapon damage itself, which of course scales.
So, do you think that food buffs would make you equivalent to Ascended gear if you're in full exotics? Or better?
At this point, no. Not if you were a player in full exotics compared to a player that has as many Ascended pieces as you can get currently. You'll come up shy if you use food as the exotic player, but you won't be that far behind an Ascended player that's not using food, in my opinion.
So, what if they balance content around exotic with full food, potion, and oils slash sharpening stones?
Mm-hmm.
And they balance content for having all of those, and then Ascended gear would then just be that little, it's slightly easier.
I guess it depends. The difficulty of the game right now is really kind of in flux. I mean, we're starting to see the movement towards a difficulty that's compatible with the player's skill on the whole right now. Between the Queen's Gauntlet, which is challenging solo content, the Super Adventure Box challenging adventure content, and now upcoming Tequatl challenging world content, we're getting to a point where that's something we have to worry about. I guess my thoughts would be, what was pre-launch content balanced around? Was it balanced around people in rares? Was it balanced around people in exotics? I mean, to know how far to tune it up, you have to know what they're targeting.
Interestingly enough, I believe...
And there's another thing, or...
Go ahead, Evee.
Go ahead. I was just going to say that it's very possible for them to balance content to be more difficult without it having to be a play on how much damage you're doing, which essentially is why you would want more gear to do more damage.
Whirly fight in Aetherblade Retreat with the walls. Perfect example.
Exactly.
Actually, oddly enough, Liadri is a good example of that. You have to have reasonable damage output. You have to have a reasonable amount.
But if you don't have some survivability, you're gonna get rocked.
Right. And if you don't, and if you try and pour all of your damage onto her in 1 second, right as she goes vulnerable, like I tried doing several times, you're gonna die. You have to actually get into the flow and then start focusing your damage on her. I mean, unless you're a greatsword warrior with Endure Pain, and you just walk up to her, Endure Pain.
Or a Mesmer that just runs around is like, illusion, keep running.
I hate you so much.
Illusion, keep running.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, Guild Wars 1, or Guild Wars 2, when it launched, if you followed the forums and all sorts, and the things that they were talking about, is the in-game content was based around a few exotics, not full exotics, as well as food buffs. I mean, several times when people were like, oh my goodness, dungeons are too hard, Colin Johansson came on and he said, okay guys, just get a few exotics, get your food buffs, get your potion buffs, and you'll find it be much easier.
Wait. People actually said that the explorable dungeons were hard.
Yes, back at launch. If you recall, there was a large outcrying of the difficulty because people weren't in full exotics yet, and they were running them in rares and greens and that sort of thing, and they
Mm-hmm.
were more challenging then. I mean, if you recall, there were a lot more wipes and a lot of that whole Zerg running, waypoint running was going on. And so people were saying, yeah, these are too hard. In fact, I read many blog posts of people who quit Guild Wars 2 because the dungeons were too difficult and they didn't understand what was happening in them. It was actually a very interesting period of time. And Colin Johansson and various other devs came out and they said, okay, guys, look, just get a few exotics, just work your way up to those. And of course, then it turned out that exotics were too easy to get, and everyone is now overtuned where you don't even need food buffs to run content. Really. I mean, when have we needed food buffs? Aetherblade Retreat, it was good to use food buffs, which
For
Liadri,
Liadri, it was good to have the dodge because it
I
wasn't
had to have the
necessary.
dodge buff for Shongaku. That was a huge advantage. That was pretty much what made the fight doable for me, because I am terrible at this game.
Oddly enough, I think I had run out of that dodge thing on the time I finished it, and I got out and I went, how? Because I had been using it all along, and I think I ran out.
Yeah, it's. I would say that difficulty is definitely that they are working on making more difficult content, and it'll be interesting to see where they tune everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that even as things tune, people have always adapted to the path of least resistance? Do you think that regardless of what we see Arena do for content's sake, do you think people are going to start doing content just to do content rather than to, say, farm COF Path 1?
Nope. The majority of players will always take the path of least resistance to get the fastest rewards. That's just
Yeah.
the way it is.
And if you
The
want,
only thing they can do is have specific rewards tied to obviously, what was I going to say?
Specific activities.
Specific content.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the idea of each dungeon giving a certain armor set was supposed to kind of fill that role.
I liked it.
So when people like had full raw armor and raw weapons, you knew that they could run a raw.
So here's a question. Would you think it would be okay for them to add ascended weapons to the dungeon token purchasing?
Yes, absolutely.
How many tokens do you think an ascended weapon should cost with the 500 tokens for a current two-handed weapon, I think?
No, it's 300 something.
Okay, 300 something. How much would you think would be a fair number? I have a number in my head.
For a two-hander, nothing more than 600.
um, to me, I would say 500 plus whatever's they are now. The way I would do it is I would make you get a gift of the dungeon, which is 500 tokens, the actual weapon from the dungeon, and then Mystic Forge it with 2 other components. Because I'm cruel and unusual, and I
With
know
a
that
vision
Ascended Gear
crystal.
needs to be more on. Yeah, Mystic Forge it with a vision crystal and one other component. Not
I
crystalline dust,
actually
because that's
like
way
that.
overused.
I actually like that vision crystal.
And a Philosopher's
take it
Stone.
from the dungeon, and no, because the vision crystal is a skill points.
Oh, okay. So Vision Crystal for skill points. Gift of the dungeon, the weapon that you want. That seems reasonable. And then one other thing.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe
Uh,
glows of dark matter or
Some
something.
globs of dark matter. There you
Globs
go.
of Dark Matter, or one of the daily transmuted things where you can transmute it or create once per day. The once per day, like Spirit Wood or Mithrilium.
I think the globs are better because they're a compound.
Yeah, globs of dark matter.
Yeah, that makes everything a compound, right? So you can just
Mm-hmm.
So
sell it off.
what do you guys think in chat if you had to do that? That would basically put you at about 800 tokens for a 200 two-handed weapon, a bunch of skill points, and you would have to salvage some exotics.
Well, and you'd have to do everything to get the vision crystal,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Vision crystals
which
are
include
fairly.
the Dragonite and basically killing a bunch of champions because you get the ephemeral fragments from the dungeon.
So
And you'd have to get the obsidian.
would you want them to create like a special glow effect for ascended weapons from a dungeon, so that you'd get that dungeon weapon, but then it would look different than a normal one? Like let's say you get the Ascalon sword, and instead of it being blue fire, maybe it's
White fire.
white fire.
The weapon doesn't turn blue, but it still has the fire, except it's white.
Chat
So it's
saying
the
we're too
gold.
lenient.
Okay, fine. Uh,
You have to forge a legendary in there too. Then it's about the same as crafting it, right?
Here's the thing, though. Crafting can be done by yourself. This is specific to group content. And I'm one of those people that's stupid and weird and thinks that if you do group content, you should get something just a tiny bit faster because you have to make a group.
I'm actually okay
Alright.
with that. I think that's. I was actually thinking about 1,500 tokens. I think
okay.
that Mystic forging it.
Someone had a good suggestion, including a gift of metal or wood in with it.
Oh, that would be good. I like that. Yeah, something else that is quite difficult to get that takes a significant. I'm fine with that. Evie?
Eh.
I'm still thinking, or maybe a. Yeah. I think that the Mystic Forge with the Vision Crystal, and then that fourth component, I think is sort of up for how difficult do you want it to be.
My biggest thing is I don't want anything
250 globs
for
of
it
dark
to
matter.
be tied to the economy at all. Just personal effort and what you actually put forward it to yourself, not how much gold you have.
I agree with that. That's in line with the rest of the Ascended gear and how much. I mean, all of the Ascended gear is how much effort you put into your account. So yeah, absolutely, it should be account bound. But of course, it's a theoretical thing, and until ArenaNet starts listening to us and implementing our ideas, I mean, you're always welcome to hire me, ArenaNet. Um, yeah, it's it's purely a hypothetical thing, but it would be cool.
Evie and Kate for reward system
Yes.
designers.
Yes.
I think that that's a really good system. I would like to see them do that. I like the Vision Crystal concept. I think it is. I really like it. It fits. It fits lore wise. It means that you have to work your butt off to get it, and when the Mersat come back, they're gonna be like, "Why do all these heroes? Why can't they see us? I don't get it."
I just want to point out that the Vision Crystal is also a very strong point in Guild Wars 1 and Prophecies.
If strong, it's like the central, it's the center climax of the story.
The center climax? Really?
Yeah, it's the central climax. It's the center climax. It's not the final climax. Maybe I guess Glint is kind of the center climax.
Yeah. For
That's
sure.
true. The Vision Crystal sort of yeah. Vision Crystal is an important part to get there, though.
It's a very important part of just the story overall and presenting the lore of the history of being ascended and whatnot. But like Augury Rock is probably my favorite mission ever. Even though it's just one fight with yourself.
Which I still totally think that that's you from an alternate universe
No,
who
we're not
also
talking about
ascended.
this because it makes me
No.
sad.
Speaking of which,
No.
Kate, have you played the Infinity Ball mission on the Azura?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Sad.
Because you killed yourself?
Yeah, it was also really confusing because I had played it towards the beginning, soonish after launch. My Asura was my third character, and I probably finished it maybe within the first 2 months. I kind of looked at. We had no idea that the Steam creatures might have more overarching story to them, and so I kind of got to it, and I was
Been
like,
more interesting than the dragons?
they really give their artists some license. Like, I bet somebody made some really cool concept art, and they're like, "Yeah, I guess we can use that," and they just kind of chucked it in here as like a weird thing. And then when we found him in Lorinar's Pass, I was like, "Yay, art department!" But now that there's an overarching story to it, it is a lot more interesting.
Little do we know that The dragons are actually from a parallel universe, and they were created by the Asura.
Actually,
No,
Here's-
no more Asura plot points.
no,
I'm
no.
done with them.
Okay, here's my current theory. Excuse me. I have to put this on because this is insane. So here's my theory. The eternal alchemy that Scarlet saw is that the dragons are actually I may have actually talked about this on the show before. I don't know. Evie, tell me if I have. The dragons basically call the universe, and essentially there's creatures that sort of are growing universes and then using them for something. Maybe they eat them, maybe they use them to build their houses, whatever. But universes that are grown, but they need to be controlled because if all these people start using magic in the universe, it sort of starts to expand beyond and they start leaving, and the balance of that universe is lost. And so the dragons are sent in as sort of an antibiotic to clear out the various little creatures inside that are causing disturbances within the reality. And they just eat all the magic, consume it, centralize it, and stabilize the universe. Humanity, however, and the various races have now become essentially resistant bacteria. And so now we're killing the antibiotic. Which means that the people who created this system, who created the eternal alchemy, are going to have to come in.
Can I just interrupt you for a second and just say
Go for it.
one thing? Reapers.
Okay, I may find that there are strong parallels between the Reapers, except the Reapers, the reason that they were doing it was dumb, ultimately. It was like, oh, we don't want synthetics and humans to fight. Spoilers for Mass Effect 3, by the way. We want everyone to get along, and so we're gonna keep killing you guys until you get along. It's like a biological timeout.
Well, the thing is, the Reapers aren't doing it because they want to do it. They're doing it because that's what they were created to do.
Right. And the dragons, of course, and the dragons have less personality than the Reapers. But what I'm thinking is that the elemental gods, who the human gods, stole the power from, like Prometheus, who is related to that Titan that is chained up in the fractal. Crazy stuff there. Essentially, I'm thinking that the elemental gods, like the Jinn gods, are the ones who created the dragons.
You're too tied up with elementals.
I really like elementals. I'm sorry, I'm fixated.
Okay.
Go, Evie.
Or the Inquest in some other alternate universe, because Asura tie everything together, created the dragons to gather power in other universes.
It's been like a year and a half since Mass Effect 3 came out, people, by the way.
And that is why the Inquest in our universe are so deeply entrenched into research on the dragons, because they want to recreate them so that they can gather their own power. And eventually it leads to this cycle where they send the dragons into other universes, get magic power and whatnot, and just bring it to their own.
So they're like a massive battery.
Yes.
That's actually, yeah, I can see that. The Inquest are pretty hardcore. We do know that if whatever happened, Scarlet is a key player in this because she has seen it.
Evie, were you around?
She went well, no. See, okay, here's the thing though. She may not fully understand it, but she has been. So think of the Mist as like a crazy multi-dimensional thing, like 15 dimensions or whatever. Kate, you might want to cover your ears for this section. So
I can't cover my ears. It's
well,
called
okay, your
headphones.
brain's about to it's okay. So think of reality for space. Time, up, down, left, right, width, depth, all that stuff, as sort of a impression in the mists. It's not as filled out as the mists themselves. The mists themselves are like 15-dimensional. So any sort of 4-dimensional being goes in there and they're like, well, I don't understand what's going on. And Scarlet has managed to transcend past that and see some level of it. Of course, as a 4th-dimensional being, she can't process the however many dimensions. I'm going to stick with 15 because that's a great number. I think 12 is the current theory for how many there actually are. But anyways, I could be wrong there. Actually, I probably am. So she's seen the makers, the runners, the people who are running things, the man behind the curtain, if you will. And she's decided that nothing means anything, and has become Nietzsche. Evie. Counterpoint?
I think she just went batshit insane. and is probably schizophrenic, among other things. And yeah.
All right, so people are assuming that I've gone completely insane, and yeah, it's true. I am completely insane. It's what I do. It's why I come up with stories and stuff. But we're gonna actually close out the show, then move on to post show. So thank you guys for watching. We're gonna do we'll talk about a little bit about the community though. Pink Day in LA is coming. Kate, when, where, what, why, how?
Mid-October. The important thing is that there's another meeting coming up on September 21st. If you want to volunteer, there's information on pinkdayinla.com. I don't know. You can get in touch with them on Twitter. You can get in touch with Gwen. You can ask me, and I'll get you a full link instead of just me talking about it on the show. I will get you in touch with the right people.
Oh, right. There's also a charity event that's happening in November. There's a 24-hour stream that a bunch of communities are doing. I know Tiger Feet from Secret Agent Kant is going to be doing one. Also, Mystic Spiral, Tasha Dark from Mystic Spiral is. We're looking into organizing a group for that as well. We'll see what we can do with that. It's basically a 24-hour stream of multiplayer games, people just coming together playing games for 24 hours and not sleeping. And what will happen is about halfway through the stream, I'm going to have my little face down in the corner, and it's just going to be me unconscious.
Yep. So, yeah, we're going to try and participate in that, and you are all welcome to come visit us or participate. If you want to participate with us, let me know. I'll get you hooked up.
But we know people don't come to Guild Wars 2 for the community. No, they come for the loots. They come for the stuff.
Come for the loot, stay for the community, because we're awesome,
right.
And I'll give you hugs.
So there is some loot out there that people can get, though. Specifically, the 700-pound mini Sparkles. Mini Mr. Sparkles.
Yes.
700 euros, sorry. He's worth 700 euros, folks, but don't sell him because that's horrible. Bad. I see you on the internet and you're thinking, I'm going to sell Mr. Sparkles. Where can people try and pick up a mini Mr. Sparkles?
Okay, so there's 3 major contests going on right now. The first is Dragon Seasons. If you design a background for them, they have dimensions online. I don't know them off the top of my head. And you win their contest, you will get a mini Mr. Sparkles. It's a fall-themed one. It's kind of a graphic design-based thing. There is Guild Wars 2 Hub, which is a scavenger hunt in-game. You have to find 5 locations. I'm not sure when that one ends. I believe it's tomorrow. So I would get on that if that's something that appeals to you. And last, but certainly not least, Moose Faces over at the Centaur Satchel has a list of all these on her website, by the way.
Moose Face!
Is running a contest to see who can do the best moose face. I think she has 2 to give away. It has to be Guild Wars 2 themed. You can do something in game. I recommend ruminant tonics. That's something we at Relics 4 know a lot about. I can send you a whole bunch of those too if you need.
When is that going to be done? Because I'm going to Alaska in a week and a half.
Hers is done September 14th, so Saturday.
Dang it! I won't be in Alaska then. I won't be able to take a picture of a moose.
But the important thing is...
Vrabin, take a picture of your riding moose. We know you have one.
If you want to do a moose face, this is a moose face. And I encourage all my hosts to join me because I told her that I would send her a picture of us moose facing. So you guys are all have to... Come on, Evee! Moose face with us! Yay! There we go! I only get one because I have to take a screenshot then. There we go. Thanks, Evee.
Interesting thing about moose is that they like to live inside ponds, but that is... They eat the pond scum, the pond grass. There you go. That is your fact about mooses today. Well, thank you guys again for watching, and I guess that was our Wheel of Morality. Mooses live in pond.
Wheel of Morality, turn. That's the lesson that we should learn.
Mooses live in ponds and eat pond plants. Now that we've said that several times, thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys in game. Bye.
Somewhere in the shadows, I find a way, leading through the fields of night, far beyond the endless memories will stay. Somewhere in the shadows, fading away. The stillness falls.